And we are live. Welcome to Iwards and Upwards. Hello, Ruby. How are you?
You are so measured and so professional. And I find you so impressive, Ivan. Because the first thing I want to tell folks today is there are no bumpers in the lanes, in the gutters of the bowling alley of my mind today. And I can't promise you how this is going to roll out. I can promise you Ivan's going to be awesome. And I might be a bit unhinged because as I was sharing with him and I
Yeah.
memorized the line in my head before getting on the stream that he doesn't
Yeah.
like to have too much cursing at the beginning, that
Yeah.
I have no spare F's today. They have
Ah,
all been consumed. Perhaps I
I
can go to the garden later and find more, but as of now, I am F free. So,
I don't mind swear words at
oh,
any
I
stage.
know. That made it go, fuck this shit. And I make no promises. And you are such a good friend. And I am so grateful for you, certainly outside of our discussions here, because, bro, you know, and I appreciate having you to, you know, just commiserate with at times about things. And it's not always the same topics or whatever, but I think it's important, even if you have one person in your life,
Mm.
whoever in our tiny audience facing whatever challenges they have. There were challenges before my country's current administration. Um,
Yeah.
I think that even just one person that you feel you can go to and feel understood, not even just the sharing of the information, maybe just one person who doesn't understand but will listen and sympathize
Mm.
for mental health, which is becoming a more acute issue for a lot of folks rapidly. Uh, I just want to express that to people. If you have or can be that one person, it doesn't have to take a lot. It doesn't have to be dramatic. If you vent the pressure a little bit every so often, as opposed to it bottling up and blowing, with no control at another point in time. That's how we can help each other out in a very small, free way. So please consider that. And thank you for being that for me.
Look, straight back at you. Likewise, you're all all this time through, thick and thin. You've been a great friend, and I every time something happens around the world or other things that really um, get some kind of a thought process in my head going, I can always rely on, reaching out to you, and we can have a good conversation about it. And
We
I can
do.
only,
We
I can
do.
only echo that, apart from simply venting and talking about things,
Yeah. We had
you
so
got a,
much fun. Well, when we're less busy, when the world, especially
yeah,
last season, we've had some real fun and having another creative mind or someone with such a different background, though we have places where we cross over in our experiences to kind of just let loose, and it's like
mm,
brainstorming, but that without intention, the conversation becomes a brainstorm. And I find that, um, really satisfying. And I've had so much fun when I think about some of the different conversations that we've had that start in one direction. And mostly probably because of me, we end up someplace else. Kind of like the start of this episode, where you had a beautiful
that's the
intro
beauty of
and
it.
title that you should share with folks.
No, what I was saying is that to tie into your point is that when you talk about mental health, it doesn't have to be simply, well, it's better if you're not just talking about something or simply venting. Try to talk about it with the purpose, so analyze it, try to decipher the information, actually try to put it through some kind of a filter, because simply talking about it quite often just doesn't help. You need to process it, and that's why, conversation with a good friend allows you to look at the problem from different angle vantage point, and that ties in very well to today's episode. Is the documentary that like I have just finished watching last night, and I
Oh,
kind of
okay.
binge watched the last. So I started watching it, and I was looking at it, and at first I was just like something is just not right. Like from the very first episodes I was watching it, I was like, I don't feel the same way, or not even necessarily the same way, but there is something that is not quite hitting the spot, like the that series that I fell in love with from season one,
Mm-hmm.
and it like slowly accumulated. And this last one, I was like, I watched a couple of episodes, and I said, well, maybe I just need to wait till the end. And like I
Mm.
did with the first season, I didn't watch it as it was released. I kind of binge
Okay.
watched it,
Uh-huh.
and I thought maybe that will give me the effect. So I did that,
Okay.
and after watching all that, I really look straight away to get the things out of the way is that I really enjoyed the side stories, and I don't want to sound hypocritical. I wish everybody the very best of everything. You know, every person who was depicted through the videos, I want them to get through their struggles and
Yeah.
come good and well on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But the story, from what I'm looking at right now, the story is really missing. Um, it's the it's not it's not the document. I don't think it's a documentary anymore. I think we are looking at um, it's like a Kardashians slash uh, Love Island slash kick the football every now and then, and the the intricacies, the real things that going on within the football club, they're just not there anymore. I You know what I mean? Like, do you have you ever thought about it?
For me, I agree that I noticed or that this season didn't resonate with me in the way that other seasons did. Now, for me, each season has been kind of different. Maybe one and two were the same. Certainly, three had a very different vibe for me. Um, but when I read your description, that I'm sure will go under the YouTube posting for this episode,
Mm,
um, was really insightful to me because it immediately made me think of what different motivations or what different um, people look to get out of the documentary experience. And of course, you are a much more technical, and I'm sure from you being not just technical with football, but having that analytical mind and being a sportsman, would have been really intrigued by the football side and seeing the football dynamics, the rather than maybe necessarily as much of home life and things, which is a human part, right? And it contributes to behavior on the pitch. But it wouldn't have occurred to me. I don't think I would have noticed because we got one-on-one player time. And it wasn't till I read that description you sent me for this episode that I
mm,
went, you know what? If I were to go back to season one, sure, there was more locker room scenes. There were now there could be a lot of factors I think that might contribute to that. They don't want to repeat material. Maybe their storytelling narrative and what they structure for the season and what they want to focus on, and including the community. This is how they've chosen to balance it. Or as
mm,
you have voiced, throughout most of last season, perhaps concern about friction in the locker room or within the club was not something they wanted to risk putting on air, which was interesting when they let some of the stuff Palmer said get out the final cut did not make
they
him look great, or at least super emotionally mature.
Let's put it this way: if I started my Wrexham experience with this season,
Oh,
I would not be I would not be watching it. I would not be following it as I ended up following it from season one, because season one had more of that real life to it, and that's why I recognized myself in those locker rooms, and that's why I saw the actual real human emotions and actual football. And here, I feel like the series just glosses over the actual campaign, football campaign. The
I
key
think that's
moments, the key moments, so like you got tactical decisions, you got your conflicts within the locker room, internal conflicts, poor performances. Because everybody just like I would like to actually highlight the fact, and I think it would be amazing for the truthfulness of the objectiveness of the series, is that the team the entire season played like crap, and it would could be such a great thing to actually show, like, despite this no well unwatchable style, we have another side of it. That's the team is still winning. And then you have somebody like Marriott, whose season got ruined by Parkinson's decision, and then he later on basically, and I, with Mullen's conflict was so visible. I mean, anybody with half a brain could have noticed, and we spoke about it last season, that we already knew what was happening. Like, you don't have to be an ex athlete or footballer to understand what had happened. Then later on, Parkinson effectively blames Mullen for his own decision, and because Marriott gets injured because of Parkinson's decision, and then he effectively blames Mullen for not performing, and the coach ruins the season for a striker who scores on like 30 goals a season rate, and then pretty much says that, okay, it's actually Mullen's fault. He was supposed to perform and he didn't. That's why he didn't play him from there on. So it happens. It's everybody thinks that every situation is unique. No, it's not. Those things repeat themselves, especially in the same settings. It happens all the time. I've seen that with my own eyes. When people deflect the blame and they come up with certain decisions, and then they decide that I actually this didn't work, but it's not my fault. But the thing is, what I'm trying to do is that, and I'm trying to explain, the actual real conversations, the real situations are either completely omitted or they watered down. And instead of showing us the objective process of unfolding in the season, we get a curated artificial version that is safe, that is uplifting, and it's good for PR. I don't enjoy that because I can see
I
through
could
that.
see
Like,
that might not be as satisfying. And I think listening to you speak, what really strikes me is, you know, in season one and certainly to some extent season two, you have the struggle of the team, like the players itself, the squad struggles to advance, the history, the background of, that you don't know what's going to happen. They're in the trenches. And it certainly evolves into including community stories, or really turns into more about the club rather
mhm,
than the squad. So hearing you
mhm,
speak about it makes that come to mind for me. I also think about, from the production side, I've never gone to look, do we have the same directors? You know, I obviously they make storyboards and plan out what the narrative is going to be ahead of time. Do we have people taking it in different directions just because they're trying out styles, because they're under, direction from Rob and Ryan? Or do we have different people, like different series, if it's Harry Potter, if it's Star Wars, where you have a different director in charge of a different season, and therefore they have their personality and slant on it? I don't know, but I can understand that your perspective is certainly valid for someone who was looking for
well,
satisfaction of a desire, a craving that it did not supply. It did not supply it in
to
that way.
actually add to your point, you touched on a couple of things. Um, Everything felt one-dimensional. the narrative, like you were saying, the narrative is simplified, and I'd say it's simplified to a good versus bad kind of a situation, or a struggle versus triumph. So the there is no there is no diving into, there is no exploration of complexity anymore. There is no gray areas, no genuine tension, because real football locker rooms, any hockey locker rooms, any other sports, they have disagreements, they have frustrations, they have humans, they have flaws. There is nothing. Like, I don't see, all I see is smiles and thumbs up. Like,
Well, I
it's,
mean, I think one-on-one, maybe it was just, channeled differently. I mean, obviously what you're talking about wasn't there, right? In the way that we would recognize in, like, let's say a purist form, or the
mm,
more objective form, like you would say. But I think that you, for me, I had tremendous emotional response, not just when, the footage of them being little players, not just, the Arthur Massey story, which for me was extra poignant because that was the home game I was there for when they awarded him the jersey. I got to see that on the field, firsthand, and it's a tiny, tiny connection, but that makes the arc of Arthur's story very poignant for me. But my God, though, Ivan, I certainly more so this season, the elation and the anxiety and the devastation. I don't understand. It's like my body's programmed. They're playing the clips. And my friend Barbara, I think, brought up at some point, and I've thought of this before. Yes, whoever, especially this season, who paired the music to set the tone for your emotional response to the show
mm,
could not have been paid enough. Like, it really gets you there. But I was almost sick again when we were at the end of this season for promotion. I know what's going to happen, Ivan. It's history, it's fact. And yet, watching that show, if I had my monitor on, my Fitbit or whatever, oh
mm,
my God,
mm.
it's like it was happening again, and I didn't know what was going to happen, and that sucked. So that was
Yeah.
weird for me.
uh, just wanted, well, on that note, first of all, hi Scott, thank you very much for joining up. Because I'm only on my phone today, do you mind reading the comment? Because I'm trying to read
Oh,
the
of
comment at the
course.
same time. And yeah.
Sure. Hello, Scott. He posts, the change has started. I think DW turning up to sign in his Lamborghini recently. I felt sorry for Palmer, to be honest. He seemed genuinely upset, but I must admit it seemed slightly for personal reasons. I may. Is it longer?
Uh,
It might
yeah.
be longer than what I can see.
Yeah, I'll try. I may not
Ooh,
appreciate.
somebody
I,
somebody sent me a message about how I can watch the comments backstage. I'll have to go back and find that some other time.
so
But
yeah, I may.
yes,
The continuation is I may not appreciate.
yes,
Um,
because we don't
they
all have all the information.
they portrayed him like such a crybaby. Honestly, I was looking at it and I was like, holy moly, like
So fun.
Kardashians one on one, and I was like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? It's Is it
But
my
again,
military background, or I don't know.
first
When
of all, I mean, we've discussed this before where, like, it's not, excuse me for my, it's not fair for you to compare other people to yourself because you are abnormal and exceptional. But for God's sake, if there was anyone you were going to have expectations of, Ollie Palmer, personality wise, is the polar opposite of you in every way that I can think of. And I think for some of us, even Palmer fans, you know, were a little put off by the performance. I know people who adore him for their own reasons, but we know that from what he's shown in so many other aspects of media, representations of himself, his interviews, not just post match, but with platforms for fashion stuff when he goes to New York, we have reason to know that this seems a pretty authentic representation of his personality. And I would never have slated him, and it might be part of what makes him fun And, a lot of the guys in the locker room speak well of his companionship, but maturity, emotional maturity, is not something I would have labeled on Ollie Palmer, who was throwing a hissy fit about, what was it, ping pong, and who would have won, and trying to rewrite history. What was it, the first Vegas trip? So, yeah, man,
You know how
he
you
did
were
good
saying,
to
like, you know
himself,
what,
but
yeah, like you were saying, you know what's gonna happen, but you still feel a certain way. And now we're talking about Parma, and that's my next point to what's going on with the actual series is that emotional manipulation takes over objective storytelling. And that's what I felt was
uh,
wrong. Like when I, so this show now is leaning heavily and constructed heavily on A, feel good moments, B, tear jerking personal stories and moments, dramatic musical cues, and other cues that are designed to get the emotion out of you.
yeah.
It's all designed to shape the viewing experience and make the viewer feel a certain way. And
Which, to be fair, happens every single time. That is what the storytelling there, unless it's a true raw footage live cam, watch the Panda Cubs, right? But I can see what you mean. It is heavy handed in this season.
there is
And
always a balance.
the quality of making it seamless, making it undetectable that, but then again, I you're right, but I don't know that it's fair, because certainly they weren't making the show for, just one person. And Ivan, like, your ability to perceive things and compare them and is not standard. It's not factory
Jesse,
standard.
I'm not a genius. I'm actually a very average human being. But it's
There is no part of
it,
that
it,
sentence that's true.
again
I
it
appreciate your humility,
takes
bro. But
no, it's true. I have worked and I have seen people who are 100 times better than me at everything. But
I don't want to
yeah,
meet
I
those
can.
people. They would terrify
It
me.
it turns like if you have honestly, if you have just a couple of brain cells to rub together, you can see that uh, lifestyle. It turns into lifestyle reality TV, and at times, yeah, just like I said, it's we are
Not
there is
all
a
brain cells are equal, Ivan. You could take two and rub them together, and some will make fucking fire, and some will just like evaporate. So
there is a difference between keeping up with the Kardashians and Sandal Until I Die. There is a difference between those series, and
I haven't seen that one.
that's what I'm talking about. There is
But a
that
lot of
balance.
people say also a series itself, and I'm not just saying this for the sake of argument, and I'm not taking away from the validity of your statement. I'm just saying that also it's a common phenomenon for the first season of any production to be more authentic than any subsequent season when they have a formula they're trying to replicate and put out, as a package, or even if they had great intentions. But
I
I haven't
understand
seen
that.
Sunderland. Is that the
I
Sunderland
understand that.
documentary? The Sunderland one?
Sandra Until I Die. Watch it actually. Watch it. That's
People
how.
say that. They want me to watch Ted Lasso too. Like, how many seasons is this Sunderland thing?
Don't worry about Ted Lasso. To be honest, it's a good fairy tale. But yeah, when
I
you
haven't worked. How long is
another,
Sunderland?
it's not too long. There's a couple of seasons, but I watched it a long time ago. But
Okay.
it's a good watch. It is a good watch. The What I'm saying is that when the focus drifts so heavily towards personal branding, towards
Mm.
celebrity owners, towards heartwarming side plots, um, the and at the same time the hard truth about football and locker room relationship and everything else and interpersonal relationship of players and coaches, they all fade into background. That disbalance creates that. Uh, it's almost like I'd say for somebody who watched the games, who followed them through the season and seasons before, it's a cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, I was going to
So
say red flag. Like, you would watch that and you'd be like, see, they're hiding something. There's a
they
big
always like
omission
there was
here.
nobody showed this, like there was no questions answered.
I
They
would say almost
they
an authenticity. Like the authenticity that existed before with the interactions from the locker room, the players, you
They
didn't have
rounded up.
access to.
They rounded up every sharp corner. They hit every problem.
Except they
Like
didn't. There was not enough Maca in this season, and I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill that I was thinking I was going to see more James McLean than I did, and I did not. And I on that alone, I am sorely disappointed. But thank you. I just needed to put that somewhere into the internet because I don't need to have rationale for my devotion to James McLean.
fair enough.
And he
No,
had
I
so
mean
much to
he's
talk about. He could have talked about so much about this season, being the captain, you know, the back to back to back. Like there's so much that I would have found interesting for them to dive into on, you know, in more depth. But they
the
made their choices. They made their
the
choices.
the players are
Did
absolutely,
you
like
hear
most of them are
the
absolutely
Mullen kit
legendary.
is off of the site? You know, they had them for sale, the one with the names on the back. The Mullen one isn't for sale anymore, which makes sense. I mean, but
Yeah, yeah.
maybe
Well,
Palmer's is still
some
up.
it is what it is. I think we have spoken about it enough.
And I'm
This
hopeful
whole
for him.
thing.
I hope Moles goes and, you know, does well at Wigan. And I was sharing, I don't remember who with, about what you told us last time I think we streamed about your return to football after your spine surgery and what a wake up call it was for you
Hmm.
that when you go back to something that would have been for you like riding a bicycle or a fish back in water, to have even fractions of disruption in the flow you used to have would be so frustrating. And so I've thought about that a lot, and I shared that perspective. I don't remember where it was with someone about your experience to frame,
Hmm.
you know, because it's easy to villainize, it's easy to shape, you know,
Hmm.
the Mullen storyline for dramatic
Hmm.
effect or
Hmm.
whatever purpose. I think a lot of what he has experienced, any human being, not even one as driven as he is with what he values and strives for, etc. But to not, especially if you're not freely able to express, either you've signed non-disclosure clauses
Hmm.
or things like that. He's capable. I want him to taste that again, even if it's not with us. You know, I hope he goes. I hope he comes back to us. I hope this is a rift that can be repaired. And I'm sure, you know, I see it as a rift. I perceive it to some extent as that. I may be simply falling for the commodity that has been produced of this interesting storyline for the benefit of entertainment. But for me, there is a resonance of truth in friction being present. I hope for him, his well being, his sense of accomplishment, and everything he gave to this club to be able to recover some of that sense of self that can only be achieved through performance. And I would like for him to come back to us. I'd like for him to be able to be a part of the story if that's what he wants come January or whatever. I'm hopeful for a resolution. It's almost like parents who have separated but not yet divorced, right? You kind of, can they work it out? You want what's best for everybody. And we will all see. But certainly, you know, I wish him the best. I will be watching to hear about updates. I don't know that I'll watch matches. I might watch one or
Hmm.
two, but there's been discussion about alleging newer fans jumping ship and becoming Wigan fans just because Moles has been sent
Yeah,
over
yeah.
there. And I'm like, that is not my experience, but you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So many people had Wrexham as their second favorite club when all this stuff started. So we'll see. Good luck to him.
I really hope that he does well too. I wish him all the
Mhm.
best. Um, he will not be back playing for Wrexham. I think, and the slimmest chance that that happens is if Parky is gone. Then he might be back at some stage. Um, and that's the thing. It would be nice to get the answers to these questions through the documentary. There is so much to uncover there. What actually, like, even though like it's not even a question, like it's all very visible, but you don't have to go and portray somebody, and then just show the objectiveness, show what happened,
Instead of
show.
reading between the lines.
And now, instead of this narrative of Mullen sitting and talking to sports psychiatrists, it's like, what are you, what are you doing? Like, who is this for? Like, okay, now we're gonna
Well,
show a shrink session.
I can
It's
see the merit of that because when what I've learned about how less than progressive some of the culture could be inside when we talk about aspects that affect play, that different parts of the world invest not just because of money, and what they have available resource wise, but because of what is seen as appropriate for the sport. I don't do we know it to be an authentic clip from a session? No, it was probably set up and staged and scripted is the part I mean. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't dismiss having it introduced because they're certainly from an American audience where not necessarily just mental health, but sports psychology is a very open thing that is commonly discussed in mindset.
Yes, I don't mind that. I mean, look, I don't argue that sports psychology is great.
You
All
asked
I'm
who is
saying
it
is,
for? And I'm saying probably
yes,
Americans.
no, we're talking about a documentary about a football club, or we're talking about, like I said before, we are drifting into a different territory of um,
Mhm.
depicting a certain, um, well, delivering a certain message through documentary. So it's not effectively about football anymore. It's about like they say that's about the story they want to tell. But just like I said, we have a team. We have things that we can really talk about within, like we can uncover and show objective
We
reality of
could.
the.
But you
Yeah.
just made me think of something. How capable are these footballers? Like you are an extremely articulate person. I like to think most of the time I am too, especially if I'm, you know, going to be paid a lot of money and on something all over the world. We have to be cognizant that not all footballers and not everyone on the club, throughout the arc of the documentary necessarily has the capacity to spontaneously share the kind of information we would find
Well, that's
interesting
what
and
I
fruitful.
mean. Show the organic stuff. Show that. Like you did in season one. Show those conversation in the locker room. They show Parkinson swearing. Like, look, their
Oh yeah,
entire
there's a lot less
no,
fucks in
no. Four seasons, 4 seasons. If I objectively look at the times they showed the head coach, when are we actually going to see him coaching? Because so far, all I'm seeing is him swearing and literally repeating the same phrase over again. Fire in the belly, play better, run faster, go get them. Fire in the belly, let's go. All right, guys.
I
It's
can't hear that stuff anymore without hearing
I
you say,
like
"Do
I would
stupid
like to
shit
actually.
faster, better, with more energy." That one,
Yeah,
every time,
exactly.
every
Like,
time.
can we actually see some coaching? I mean, it's he's getting paid really good money, and obviously he's doing great.
Maybe
He's
they're kept
getting the team.
secrets, like
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah. New
maybe that's
Guardiola.
part of why they keep it out. My favorite
Like,
comment, and I cannot remember who it was. Maybe you saw it. It had to be probably on social media, or maybe it was on another podcast where someone commented that watching Parky, they must have been either watching the stream or at a live match, but they said it's like they were comparing him to an opposition coach, obviously both on the sideline. And they said it was like he's playing voice activated FIFA. And I just died laughing because I can hear him sometimes on certain streams, in the background. But yeah, he apparently vocalizes a lot, but we don't get much of it in the documentary. Certainly not
you
set.
see,
I liked that we got a little,
the
but it was heavily
relationship, the
curated.
actual relationship within the team, are barely touched. We we have like we learn more and more about the local business owners. We learn about how to you know we learn about how people struggle through their daily things and other accidents and incidents. But I would like to learn more about how, because it's such a big, we are going through the leagues really fast. There's a very interesting process happening, never before, historical
Okay.
achievements, very interesting dynamics. I would like to see the players relating to each other within that context. I
Mm.
would like to see the managers and the coach, and I would like to see that group behind the closed doors. I would like to look at the chemistry, at the conflicts, at the friendships, at fractures, which is all inevitable. And I would like to see that development of difficult season, because we have such a great string of events and
Hmm.
promotions. It's a huge opportunity wasted to actually show us the truth behind the, like, that's why show us the coaching, show us how
It's
people go through that,
the
instead of just
show with the
the
skinny
the
pants.
PR lollipop that is in your face all the time.
Remind me, what's the name of the show? Because it's not Sunderland. Because I haven't seen that. Something amateurs. Bunch of amateurs. Do you know that
Sorry,
one?
I don't.
Oh, okay. So there's this other lower than us league team, and they've got their own document, and it is. I think you should just check it out. It has a much more gritty presentation, and while it is very much focused on the coach, you have more of these ad lib moments that are again like baby panda cam in their weight room of some, and we're talking a budget so far below. But when you speak this way, that's what comes to mind for me, probably because I haven't seen Sunderland. But I understand. I understand what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. And having you bring it up does make me feel now that I have missed out on something that before I didn't perceive. It was just this particular season's flavor, versus I was pleased that we kind of returned a little bit closer to a format that I felt was a little more structured than season 3. But I think it's also fair for us to ask at this point, beyond what we would like to see, what were the purposes of each season, right? And what is the
Hmm.
purpose in the money making machine that is Wrexham now? So if I were to think
Hmm.
about when they structured this, how much of the decision was, are we still trying to bring in new people? Is that a different formula from the whole them still actively being a part of the discovery themselves? Everyone that was involved with the documentary getting to know new people, new places, new things that are now just a part of their innate experience.
Well, look. I'm not stupid. I understand that now they
I
are
mean, I don't
delivering.
know.
Yeah, yeah. They are now delivering a branded
Mhm.
entertainment. It's not a documentary as such anymore, and that's what I want to really, really sort of
Like
send
a
home, is that,
docudrama.
yeah, it's the content that is shaped to fit a commercially friendly narrative, a
Mhm.
positive, commercially friendly narrative. Everything is polished, sharp corners are gone, everything is rounded off. It's about protecting the brand, global image.
Mhm.
It's Wrexham, the owners, rather than actually documenting their reality, which I think is a shame, because their reality is unique.
Yes,
You
and I mean
have
from a
this.
historic standpoint, like almost from a scientific data historical standpoint of going back, and people will write a dissertation. Someone will pursue sports and write it on this achievement and the
Absolutely.
raw data that would have been, really interesting to archive and to go through will theoretically not be available. I mean, maybe it's on the cutting room floor, maybe it exists, but we
You
didn't
see,
see it in this season.
another thing is that not only we didn't see it, is that a lot of people think that if you're gonna start showing the truth, like the way that people are in real life, they think that it will make them less appealing to the global population, to the global market. They think that people are gonna stop loving them, and time after time again, people don't understand that actually showing the flaws of the people
Which is
is
the inverse of the
it.
beginning. Like episode 1 was get
You
to know the
gotta,
people, and that's why we're here.
if
Season
you
1.
show the flaws, if you show the actual objective reality, that will make the series better. That will actually make people fall in love with the characters even more. It's not going to turn people away, it's going to bring them in.
Maybe,
So
but we don't know what everyone's motivation is
it,
because everybody
it
has a honeymoon phase. And then they get
Look,
tired of having the same old thing. Not everybody appreciates growth, Ivan, in a storyline.
the what I can tell you is that a good movie is the
I
movie
cannot believe
where.
we have like 2 people who listen to us. Yay.
Yeah, I know. Like a good movie, if you look at the cinema, a good movie, it's always the movie where the character is more than one dimensional.
For
it's not
depth.
you.
Yes.
It's a depth of a character, and we all are full of flaws, good and bad things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I understand that it sometimes it's tough, and sometimes people are just not ready to. Actually, well, nobody wants to see the objectiveness nowadays, anyway. But that would be the this I think that cutting edge. Can you read that comment, please? Because I can't
Yes,
see it.
I'd be happy to. So from Bill Wrexham, he posted, as
Hmm.
someone from the town, I've actually enjoyed this season more because it's focused less on the characters, but I do think they've moved away from that because people are too unpredictable IRL. Excellent point, Bill. Something I was just getting ready to bring up to Ivan was the element that makes it a documentary. You can either be for Wrexham, the recipe of being completely extracted and having your National Geographic footage doesn't work because they're trying to grow and commercialize for the sake of the club, etc. But on the flip side, I think Bill brings up an excellent point. If you're trying to have a narrative that, let's say, loosely guides, at least
Hmm.
structures, a product to bring forth from day to day, it is not just a sport, but an industry in which you don't know what the fuck's going to happen next. And so the ability to prepare the presentation of that, I don't know what's involved and how much work, especially as they try from the business side to accelerate the process to have the series be more in sync with the seasons so that people can now have seen are up to date. People this year who are going to start watching, like I did, watching live with
Hmm.
iFollow or whatever, there's not new content that they will have missed out on that would overlap. So I think there are a lot of really interesting questions and interpretations of the topic, most of which I do not have answers for, of course. But
Mm.
I appreciate everyone's insight and perspective because it just expands my appreciation or, you know, later on reflection of what could be. And I really, really want to grow perpetually, especially as a newer fan of Wrexham. And I can't even say I'm that much of a football fan because if it's not Wrexham,
Yeah,
it's not Wales. I don't really care.
and I understand completely
Oh, you do,
what
but
Bill is
like
saying.
new people might be
No, no,
listening to this. Oh,
no.
yeah.
I mean, look, Bill. What Bill is saying is that for the town, for somebody from town, the this kind of series is excellent. It's great. And just like I said in the beginning, the side stories. It's not about. There's no problem with the side stories. It's actually great to see that. It's always like
Oh, yeah.
deserving of its own little separate project. Tell the stories of the people, and it's the docu series are doing. It's not. They're doing
I'm a
wonders for the
person who
community.
that's my favorite part. Like I'm an
Yeah,
audience member where that's the part that I prefer, from what I get
yeah,
out of it, who I am as a person.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But again, I think I'm approaching this from a different
Yes.
point of view.
Yes.
It's
100%.
because
But it makes sense and it's valid.
yeah.
It's 100%
Well,
valid.
I hope it is. It's just because I honestly, I felt like I was like when I finished watching it, I felt um like I read a comic book. You know, that's what
Mm.
I felt like.
Yeah, that
Like
doesn't, well, to all of our comic book fans out there, we respect it as a genre and
no,
your joy of it. I know you're not saying that, but for a lot of people, it doesn't provide the depth. Maybe in a short period of time or what the medium conveys, it
okay.
doesn't resonate as
I
much.
have I have read a memoir of a soldier or an officer during his time in Vietnam War or World War
Okay.
II. and I've read those, like, and they were unpolished, raw memoirs,
Mm.
just citing and describing the events that
And
happened
first
day by
person.
day at first person, or uh, describing others, the
Hmm.
people, the situations. Like I
With a
read that,
first person
and that
voice.
and the experience of that and experience of reading a comic book is different. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So the first one is a documentary because that's a person documenting effectively what's happening, and there is no judgment there. There's just literally description of what's going on.
Hmm.
And there is this, just like I said, it's a branded entertainment now. And when I watched the first season, I had that experience of that the memoir. I had that.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
felt I felt I felt different.
More raw.
It was more objective, as weird as it sounds, because when you
More
completely
unfiltered, it
ignore
seemed.
yeah, when you completely ignore the interpersonal relationship within the team, when you ignore the style of play and tactics, there is almost no analysis or objective coverage of the football itself.
Hmm.
We don't see how the team tries to play, what the coach tries to deliver. We don't see the coach actually coaching. That's what I mean. Like, when are we going to see Parkinson actually coaching instead of just saying run faster?
You
Uh,
know the answer to that, Kevin.
hmm?
You
Sorry?
already know the answer to that.
Yeah,
Never.
no. It's
We're never going to see it.
how how specific this. We need to start relating that how specific decisions and specific stress points, how they shape the result. The the football becomes like a background scenery, like
How
background stuff.
much have you watched like the Triple A's? Because I haven't watched. There's tons of behind the scenes footage now on like YouTube and whatnot. Maybe there are sources there, or that what is it? The interview with Chris Malaband. Live on the pitch. I can't believe I can't think of it right now. Barbara is going to yell at me. But whatever the show is with the interviews with Mia and Andy before the
Hmm.
the match and I think halftime, um, those kinds of content, maybe some of the things you would be looking for are present there. I certainly have not gone through that archive and consumed everything that's there. Maybe that has been an outlet for some of that to prioritize storytelling within the documentary.
You mean those triple A's episodes on YouTube?
Those
That's what
kinds
you
of,
mean?
yeah, that kind of video and stuff that the club
Yeah, I
puts.
watched them, but it's still very polished, and it's just yeah, there is no.
I mean, they let the
It
flat Earth discussion come through, which was a choice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh my god!
yeah, yeah. No, it's better. It's better than some. Yeah, yeah.
God,
No,
that
I mean,
was
look, I
just
think it was a valid point, just because I had to share that because I couldn't help but.
no, and
And
I'm glad that you did. It would not have occurred to me. We have different experiences, we have different minds, we have different tastes, and I'm so glad you did because it allows me to see the same product with more critique, with more depth. I get more out of what's not there. I can
mm,
um, rate the product better when I have other perspectives other than just my own. My experience was still what it was. It wasn't my favorite season. It was better than some of the seasons that I liked. And I had tremendous emotional response because of what happened in real life, which has less to do, I think, with the content of the documentary and
mhm,
more to do with the reminder of a shared experience that was powerful for me in real life.
mm,
I also haven't rewatched any of it. So all of my responses, which like have been one shot. I know folks who
yeah,
have already watched it multiple times.
yeah,
And if I rewatch it with this in mind, I'm really curious how my thoughts will change. So you're valid. You're right. There's not an exclusive way to consume this, but I think that your perspective is extremely interesting. And I look forward to whenever I get around to seeing it again, seeing it through your
yeah.
eyes.
I think it's fair if I share my honest emotions. And
Of
again,
course.
it's beyond just being happy or not happy, positive or negative. And a lot of people, like I can see right now that a lot of people talk about new signings, and some people get frustrated, and some people get happy. Like I see it on Twitter, on X, and like I actually unsubscribed from pretty much every Wrexham related podcast or channel and whatnot, because it's the I just
I
need a
know you
break from
shared
all
the
that.
point. Yeah. And that's something else I've discovered. I may have learned it last season. I remember at the beginning of last summer having trouble imagining letting go. Like, because some of the veteran fans
Mm,
step away. And then we're not just
mm,
content creators or whatever, but like fans that would be like, step away and like do shit with their families and go on vacation and touch grass. And I remember thinking, how can you let this go? Okay. It is
mm,
intense. It is 9 months when you are a committed fan, even if you're newer, or especially if you're newer. It takes a lot out of you. Now, there are other things in my life in the country where I'm at that also demand attention and energy, family, things like that for my life. So I have come, even though I still find the um, excitement that people have over transfer windows to be thrilling in a way that I know you do not. Um,
Now, look, let
I've
me
noticed
let
I
me
need a
let me
break too.
clarify.
Like, yeah, I have
Let
to
let me
unplug, man. I need.
Let me clarify. I like, and that going back to Scott's comment about Lamborghini and Danny Ward arriving in Lamborghini. Yeah, the change is happening, and it will inevitably happen, and it's only a matter of
Did
time.
he really
The
like roll up in a Lamborghini, or are people just like using that as an example of fancy, like the caliber of lifestyle of players? Does Danny Ward have a Lamborghini?
I don't think Scott will be lying to us. Looks like he actually does. But this is gonna championship is a whole different level. We have that's what I mean about signings and transfers, and people are saying that we're gonna get promoted again, or like championship is a one of the best leagues in the world. It's my favorite league to watch. The money is absolutely insane, and every team is unpredictable, and every team is competitive. This change is going to happen, and the what I really want is, like I said before, I hope that they sign every player Parkinson wants. Obviously, it's not possible, but all I want is I want him to have no excuses. This time, I want him to have no, give him everything he wants. I want him to have a fair go. No excuses, no justifications, nothing. Just give him what he wants and let him do his thing. That's what I want to see.
Well, and I mean, he might get close to it. From what we understand from the past, he has been successful in achieving targets that he has set, yeah, identifying players for recruitment and whatnot. So, I mean, we're probably never going to know who exactly everyone, but he's going to get a lot of what he wants based on the past. But also, part of what I hear when you speak about that is your desire from an analysis standpoint. It is a scientific, like you're wanting to create a study where there's control to compare against the test, and to be able to pinpoint and identify with what information we have access to, causality. And that's great for the kind of answers that you want, but we know that the club's history in these few years is not supplying, that kind of transparency that would necessarily prove, like scientifically, what you will observe and believe to be true and know to be true. But we'll, it's going to be entertaining. And in fairness, I agree. But I think, especially for people new to the sport, new to perhaps the club, I myself have heard every time it's a big step up. Every league that we've gone up, it's a big jump. It's like the words are the same. Now, when you're experienced like yourself or Bill or Scott or some of the other football supporters who've been watching for a while, in your minds, you can gauge the degrees of distinction between these leaps, between these steps. But the language that's being put out on podcasts or whatnot are the exact same words that have been there for the last 2 or 3 years. So I think that it's understandable that some, especially newer supporters, would maybe not take that message as seriously given the back-to-back promotions, because I don't have some graph showing me percentages. And we get numbers about money spending, we get performance stats but we don't actually have a degree of difficulty chart that people can immediately grasp as, okay, we have 7 steps. The first step is 6 inches. The second step is 12 inches. The third step is 48, right? There's not something circulating to make that instantly clear. And so I would just because I've been catching up on a few pods, getting ready to warm up, for this season. And I'm hearing that language again. I believe it, but I think that the degree, the scaling up is not, maybe because they're speaking to other supporters who know
Yeah,
because they've watched championship, they watched premiership, like they know what it means. But for a lot of newer supporters, there's nothing to really meaningfully say why they shouldn't hope for a 4th promotion.
well, look, the
insane.
the progression is not linear. Those steps and the increase in
Yes,
difficulty, it's not
exponential.
linear. It's exponential. There is a huge amount of factors, and every time people use the same word, because when people state something like that, they always automatically use it as an excuse for the future failure. That's why it's said like that. So it's a safeguard. It's like, we told you the jump was going to be big. Like it's always like it's about that. It's like, okay, it's going to be huge. It's going to be big. So people don't underestimate it, and it's quite standard in human psyche. Everything happens along those lines all the time, and life. The unknown is always scary because everybody starts from 0 points, and then the season develops the way it develops. But what I'm saying is that obviously there is no point going out there and trying to play just to survive. You always have to strive for for the best possible outcome. But I think we just need to be a bit more this time around. We just need to be a little bit more patient. And just like I said
As
before, it would be
supporters or as a club?
as supporters. As a club, I don't know what they're gonna do. They obviously, talking about the comment that was posted on our page like 3 weeks ago. They just announced their approximate budget, and the
Yes.
value of the club, like 400 something million dollars. That is all done on purpose because they're trying to find some financial backing, set new deals, because obviously the expense now is going to be completely on a completely different level to what it used to be before. So all those are very logical tricks that they're going to be playing. But just like I said before, they get everybody he wants, and the only thing we really want is to go through the season without a change of coach. That would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, honestly, that is a risk and a realistic possibility? I see no effing way. I see no effing way unless we have not won a match by January. I don't see them letting Parkey go. I can't
Let's
conceive of that. Their commitment to him is so profound.
like to Mullen.
Well, I mean, Mullen was sort of like, but see, Mullen doesn't have someone to attribute his outcomes to, right? A coach does.
No. What I mean is that Mullen is a in this world, in football world, you go from zero to hero, and from hero to zero. You would be surprised. You
Right.
there will be just as much hate as there is love
Oh,
within a
sure.
split second.
Well, and
Literally,
we've seen that, I think,
like
accelerate as we've
200
gone up
million
the
times over the
leagues.
history.
But
Yeah.
was it Bryn Law? Bryn, who was on a racecourse ramble, and I was listening to that, and I believe he gave a statistic of the championship having like the highest turnover rate of coaches of any
That's
of the
what I mean.
tiers.
Mhm.
But I mean, no, so again, the answer, do you think it is an actual possibility that there's a scenario that they would let Parky go next season if the perfect storm
First,
happened?
like I always say, first 10 games. If you are sitting dead last in the table after first 10 games, what you gonna do?
They're going to wait and give him a chance. Like the precedent is in Parky we trust. I can't imagine. One, I can't imagine it happening. I'm trying real hard. Give me time. I'll think about it, especially 10 games in. But I can't see them not giving him till January at least. And even then, my mind would. I can't imagine how catastrophically poor we'd have. We'd have to lose every match, like almost every. How bad do you think it would need to be to justify?
Have you seen the start of the season, that the schedule of the fixtures?
Yes, but
Yeah.
keep in mind, it doesn't mean to me what it does to
Mm.
you. I'm just excited that
It
hey,
doesn't
I've heard
to
of
be.
these people before.
It means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. There's one thing that I used to never do, is I used to never look at the fixtures before the season. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. You go out and play the game as it comes. But I'm saying is that people look at those fixtures. First six apparently are really, really hard, and
Okay.
I can tell you, after first couple of losses, if they happen, maybe they won't, maybe they will. Who knows? There will be there will be
We will have
already.
losses. I think we know that.
There, oh yes, yeah. Well, look, give it give it a few games, and we'll have wins too. We'll have
Of
losses. We'll have
course.
wins.
Of
There will
course.
be football season. There will be a game of football to play every time. Doesn't matter who you playing. But what I mean is that couple of bad games, let alone three or four. Tough start to the season. You just wait. There will be
Is
a
that because of
cup.
more money? Why would there? Why do you predict? It's just because that's the way it is, and now we're at that level, and it's just that much more brutal as far as
Well,
expectations.
if
Because
you're
it's the same.
playing the if you're playing the teams who are on parachute payment from the Premier Leagues, and the level of players that they got, and the finances that they got available, you're playing the teams that have been in Championship for decades. Every player there is a seasoned or a veteran, or a young proven talent who's a Championship level. There's no simple games. Like there's a couple of clubs now that are in a bit of a financial turmoil. They probably going to have a bit of a bumpy ride, but everybody else, they all are uh, back off really good football players who on their day can win against, well, almost any Premier League team. And it happened before in the history during the cup matches and whatnot. So, and especially Wrexham, target on their back. Everybody's going to be playing their club final against Wrexham again. So it's a whole different kettle of fish. Exciting, and it's great. That's what they get. That's why I go back to that same thing: is get Parkinson every player he wants. Spend as much money as possible. I want him to have zero excuses, because last season, during the first few months, I said, like, it's documented, it's not going to be released, but I said that the only way this team is going to get promoted is they're going to smash the transfer market record for them in January. They need 2 or 3 great players that will be superior to everybody else, and then 3 players came. It was actually more than 3. There was 4. So even though everybody was very happy about Palma back then, and I wasn't, but yeah, that's some things are very easily predictable. You don't have to be a guru to understand that. But what I mean right now is that get him everything, all the resources, like no excuses. Yeah, I want him to have zero excuses. He needs to have all the tools, all the capabilities provided to him on the silver platter. Show us what you got. Now that you don't have superior players, now that you don't have superior fundings, you're just one of many. Let's go. Show us the coaching genius. Let's see it in the
Okay,
best
so
possible way.
we're over an hour now. Ivan, did you? Oh, I was going to say, did you need me to read you that one from that post from Scott? Oh, this is a different one.
Yeah.
It
What? Can you read that,
says,
please?
yes, of course. Scott posted, if we play aimless football and lose a lot, the fans will moan and the script is already written. It will be tough for them to stand by P and P.
Hmm. Absolutely
Which again,
correct, Scott.
my ignorance, I've not been on this journey. So many folks following the club, you know, have been through years and years of relegation, promotion. Yes, obviously League Two, National League, but for me personally, I've not been on this journey. I mean, I know I'm starting to see patterns of behavior from season to season in what the fan base exhibits, yeah, immediately following a match. And then the next day when they wake up and have reflected or sobered up or whatever. So I'm starting to identify things that I can expect, right? But it's a little concerning for me to hear you say that it will exponentially become more volatile because sometimes it's a little chaotic and unhinged at any given
But
point. But okay.
in the end of the
So,
day, it's football. The grass is green, the ball is round, and you
mhm,
play every game from zero. So
okay.
I don't want to make any because there is no point making any predictions right now. We don't even know what the teams are going to be. Like that's
Oh,
there's absolutely it
well,
doesn't
in
matter.
lieu of predictions, if we have anybody that might be watching that's going to be going down under for that tour and is not from the area, do you have recommendations on any landmarks, restaurants, particular places that people should go while they're on the Down Under tour if their itinerary has a little bit of wiggle room? Because obviously you've been, in Australia, you're familiar with New Zealand. Are there beautiful beaches or some place that people, if they have free time, shouldn't miss?
If they just come for the game to Wellington, which I don't think a lot of foreigners will actually come, they probably will go to Australia. But if you are in Wellington, um, you probably are in the one of the better, bigger cities of the country. It's it it's quite a vibrant city. It's got a lot of interesting spots. So I don't think people will be traveling too much, but at least go for a walk around the actual city because it's quite nice. The waterfront and the suburbs, you can quite easily get to amazing like walking tracks with absolutely majestic views
Mm,
of the Cook
wow.
Strait. So yeah, just try to explore the surroundings as much as possible. But as for Australia, I'm sorry, I'm not educated enough.
Well, that's
I
okay.
know.
I just knew that you traveled there, for the concerts or whatever, and that you might
Yeah,
have a favorite that you wanted to pitch.
for New Zealand, if you want to explore New Zealand, you need a lot longer than a few days. You need weeks and weeks and weeks. So yeah, obviously, come over to Queenstown and Central Otago. We can
Well, and
probably.
also remember that it's winter and bring a jacket.
Oh yeah, yeah, and Wellington is going to be windy as well. So
I was gonna
yeah.
say, is that I didn't, in case anybody listening was going, I didn't want to bring out like the airport of death, like the runway
Mm,
of, is that the one where you, God, oh God.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, but it'll be
Okay.
fine. Anybody listening that's going,
Yeah,
it'll be fine. It'll be
it
absolutely
will be
fine.
fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just windy. It's just windy.
Yes, just wind. What
Often.
has wind ever done? Says the
Yeah,
person
yeah.
living in Kansas with tornadoes. All right, Ivan, are you ready for some Everything is Football? We
Let's do
missed
it.
it. I hadn't realized, and Simon pointed out that last
Yeah.
episode we missed it. So if anyone is new here, we have a game where I present three random items to Ivan because his
Hmm.
knowledge of football is so profound and he sees it almost as a philosophy of life that I want to challenge his ability to take a surprise item that he's presented with and tell me how it relates to football. He has not ever disappointed me, and we have learned a lot of interesting things, not just about Ivan, but about football through his lens. So if he is ready, I will start with item number one.
Let's
Item
do it.
number one is a paintbrush. It's a flat,
Oh.
square end paintbrush like you would use on a canvas. something
Mm.
small, not for a wall. So, Ivan, how
Mhm.
is football like a paintbrush?
Paintbrush. You know how paintbrushes can be different. Like there's bigger, smaller,
Yeah,
and whatnot.
of
So
course.
to me, every football team or any other sort of team of people, it's a little bit like a painting. It's a little bit like a collective
Okay.
painting. So and people bring their own individual strokes to that canvas.
Okay.
And to me, paintbrush is effectively a player. It's got its
Oh,
width, it's got its texture. Some are wider, some are narrower, some are
mhm.
on the angle. So it
But
adds
they're
to that
distinct.
unique stroke. Yeah, that's a very good personification of a player.
I love this idea. I would love that instead of just a portrait that's taken each season, like a class of
Mhm.
players, you know, I would love if they had to paint a painting. Each of them got a brush and like each of them had to contribute putting something on a canvas every season and seeing
Mm.
how what was on the canvas would change from
Mhm.
season to season. That would be fascinating because then it would be this visual representation of what you're talking about without necessarily parameters. And how fascinating, man, like you're good at this, but I'm good at picking good stuff for you.
Very, very good.
Give us good ideas. Well, thank you very much. That was interesting. Okay, what am
Okay.
I going to do next? All right.
Mhm.
Item number 2 is a miniature lighthouse. So this one is a lamp, but so
Mhm.
it's red, white, and blue, and it has
Mhm.
little LED lights in it to represent what would be a lighthouse on an actual coast somewhere. So, Ivan, how is
Mm.
football like a lighthouse?
Well, do we want to talk about a lighthouse itself or the lamp? What are we talking about here?
Oh, I was going for the lighthouse, but you have
The lighthouse.
flexibility since I guess it is a dual purpose.
No, no. I
I
mean,
couldn't I couldn't fit a
lighthouse.
real lighthouse into the into the room.
So the idea of a lighthouse, I think, when it comes to sports and football, lighthouse is a navigational aid,
Hmm.
right? So it's something that people look at to take reference of the coastline or dangerous areas, or just looking for a navigational path through the waters. And to me, Lighthouse is a perfect comparison to the strategy and tactics of the game.
Mm,
It's
okay.
something that you can always that's something that you can always look at and remind yourself of where you're going, how you're gonna get there.
Oh,
So that's
like a
if I
focal
was to
point to
come,
help you triangulate.
yeah, and how to triangulate, how what to avoid, what to follow. It's to me that's a very good comparison.
Fantastic. So, God love him. So maybe we put one out for Arthur as he's continuing to improve his kicks, and to the
Actually,
lighthouse.
when I heard a few people were asking why we brought in a third goalkeeper. I personally have a feeling that Arthur's not necessarily number one next year.
It'll
So,
be it'll be interesting. It'll be
mm,
interesting.
so
All
another
right.
goalkeeper is a good thing.
Oh God, the rate at which we go through them, yes. I at least have peace
Hmm.
of mind that we've got another
Hmm.
back there because
It
we
will
have
only
no.
get it will only get worse with injuries.
Yikes. Yikes. Okay. Well, our third and final item for Everything is Football today. Now, people call it different things depending on where you are.
Hmm.
When I grew up, this was called a fanny pack. Now, I know. Wait, let me get there. Let me get there. It is now also called more fashionably a crossbody bag instead of wearing it, where you wear it crossbody.
It's a
But
bum bag.
yes, now I learned that when someone from Australia visited my family and they were presented a fanny pack. So explain before you explain how it is um, related to football. Please explain to everyone why you laughed at the name.
No,
Take
it's
your
not the
time.
name. It's the actual item because it just brings back so many memories of
Oh,
those things.
really?
Just looking,
The bright
looking.
colors? I thought it was going to be the fanny part.
No, it's the actual object of, and I remember, from my
Neon.
early years of, I remember my parents and, people around me wearing those things. It's, yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
But
So,
so convenient, to be fair.
what?
And so convenient, though, to be fair.
Yes, yeah,
So we
yeah,
decided at
yeah.
some point they weren't dignified, and then they came back and we just slung them in a different spot. So for those not following, in the States, the term fanny almost exclusively refers to the backside, the butt. So if
Yeah,
someone was going to get a spanking, from their parents as a child, they'd get spanked on the fanny or things like that.
yeah, yeah.
I have come to understand that in other places that speak English,
Mm.
fanny could mean the front, specifically of a lady. And so, yeah, thus the confusion between our Australian visitor and us initially when we had bestowed the fanny pack to them.
To me,
So, sorry. Okay, so I got sidetracked. How how is a fanny pack football?
I can only compare fanny pack to shin pads. Nowadays,
What?
which is, yeah, shin pads. Because
I
nowadays, you
I
know
have
how they
this is
actually.
like 10 times the size of the shin pads we see
I was
nowadays.
about to say, back in the day, they used to be quite huge. They used to be big and very
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. But nowadays, some of them are, you can barely see them. They're so small, or they just, now they blend into the sock. So, and they are very annoying quite often, and almost all the time completely useless.
Ah,
Because but at the same time, they're just as useful as they are useless. And it's just one of those things that it's convenient to have, but you don't really have to have it. So it's for some reason it has that connection in my mind.
all right. Well,
Yeah,
sorry. I'm such a fucking child.
yeah. No, I'm sorry. So I have children in the background going nuts.
No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't even that funny the first time, but now it's just
It is funny.
maybe
It
it's
is funny.
like because people say some people on the sub. Speaking of the documentary, we'll round it out there. Season one,
Mm.
your subtitles, depending on where you were at, might have said different things while Parky Enthusiasm was happening. And there were some people who thought he said fatty, Fatty, fuckers. I think those of us who knew to listen for it understood that he said Fanny, Fanny,
Yeah, yeah,
which can also have other
yeah,
connotations. But such a loaded
yeah,
word for something, for it is a first name for people here. There are
yeah.
women whose first names are Fanny, short for Francis or whatever. So, yeah, just as we said
Yeah.
last episode, words have power.
They sure do.
And words can have meaning that we haven't encountered in our personal lives. Um, so
True
yeah,
that.
yeah, there we go. Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap it up? I'm super stoked that we
Um,
didn't have loud fireworks going off, which will probably start any minute. But
I think we have covered a lot, and if we have anything else, we just hopefully will be online sooner rather than later because there is more to discuss, obviously. But I think for
well,
now we're good.
definitely. And thank you to everyone that posted and engaged today. We
Thank
appreciate
you so
you
much.
stopping by and having patience with us and engaging with us and bringing up excellent points that broaden certainly my horizons and perspective. And, you know,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ruby, and
thank
thank you
you.
everybody who was watching and who will be watching. And comment, please. Ask us questions. You know, uh, that would be great. Would be great to engage.
Until next time, from America,
Yep.
cover your fanny.
Exactly. You guys need to do something with this big fanny of a situation you guys got
Watch
going
your
on.
fanny. Watch it.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.